All right, there's the cue. All right, I'll call the workshop to order. Today's a workshop on workforce development and the American Rescue Plan Act funds. You know, we've had some report backs. Ling and her team have been very good with getting into helping support our community through the CARES funding. We've had a lot of updates on that and some evaluation. Now we're moving into the ARPA funding, and we've already made some approvals in the past. We've done some partnerships with the city, and we'll continue to have some strong partnerships with all of our cities, but in particular St. Paul. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Joanna to tee it up real quick here, and then we'll get into some of the good meaty information here that Ling and their team have put together for us.
Thank you, Commissioner. I'm going to just do the first couple of slides. I'd like to start by introducing our presenters today. We all know Ling Becker, our Workforce Solutions Director. I'd also like to introduce Erica Prosser, St. Paul's Deputy Director of Parks and Recreation, Rachel Molnow, Planning Specialist with Ramsey County, and Shana Aram, the City of St. Paul Program Supervisor for Right Track and St. Paul Youth Commission. We can go on to the next, perfect. And then the goals for today, you all recall we had a policy conversation with you in November regarding ARPA investments in workforce initiatives. This is follow up to that conversation, a December request for board action. We want to talk today about the co-investment strategy we've developed with the City of St. Paul. As the chair mentioned, we have a strong partnership here, but I want to underscore as well that these investments are serving all of Ramsey County with our county funds. And then Ling will be talking a little bit about the request that'll be coming next month as follow-up to this workshop. And with that, I'll turn it over to Ling.
Yeah. Good morning, Mr. Chair, Commissioners, County Manager O'Connor, and as Deputy County Manager Berg stated, we are joined today here by our colleagues, Shana and Erica with the City of St. Paul, who we've been working very, very closely with. So I want to thank them for being here and co-presenting some of this material with us. Today, we're going to be doing several things. I want to just ground us in our proposed workforce initiatives. But first, we want to give us a quick update about the Right Track Plus program. In addition, you also approved, as Joanna referenced, in late 2021, two workforce initiatives, one which focused on childcare workforce and the other on public health career pathways for Ramsey County employees who are low wage earners. We are currently moving toward activating those projects right now. And when I shared about those projects in November, I stated we would be back with the kind of the remainder of the workforce initiatives with our American Rescue Plan Act funding. So here we are today. And as we look into 2022, we have the opportunity to make a collaborative set of workforce investments in partnership with the City of St. Paul. Please do note that our portion of our investment will ensure that all parts of the county will be served, as Deputy County Manager Berg indicated. The mayor has committed to a $40 million investment for workforce and business supports publicly. This is a unique opportunity for the county and city to work together. As you know, we already have a strong history of doing this, whether it's through our Workforce Investment Board or most recently with our the ARPA project around Right Track Plus. We have been building on our strong partnership with the city. However, those partnerships aren't formed overnight. Since joining the county in 2019, I have made this a really high priority in our work, is not only to build that collaborative partnership with the City of St. Paul, but also across all our municipalities and across all our school districts. And so you're going to hear about that today. So what we're going to bring before you today are a set of workforce initiatives that will be involving $7.65 million of county ARPA funds. And we would be also recommending a $16.3 million city investment. I do believe the city is still evaluating the amount of investment. There's a couple $1 million there that they're trying to figure out how they would like to spend, but this is the proposal that we have today. And so the plan is that we are going to come back to you with an RBA in March of 2022. I do want you to know that I've had conversations and presentations with the mayor, as well as with multiple of the city council members, as with some walkarounds in partnership with Erica. And also we've been meeting a lot with city staff over the last few months. And so as we move into these next investments, though, as I mentioned, before we get into too much detail, I would like to take a few moments for you to reflect back on the Right Track Plus program. It was the very first ARPA project you approved. It's also the first one to conclude. And so I want to give a big shout out to the county departments who really supported us, finance, procurement, communications, and also a special thank you to those county departments who hosted interns. I think most of them would say it was a very positive experience. In addition, I want to thank Cindy Robbins and IS, and also Noe Gates, who's our public pathway coordinator, for willing to just do some things really outside the box with me to ensure that we just had great onboarding for these young people who came into our roles in the county. So thank you to so many leaders within Ramsey County who were very intentional in trying to create more pathways and diversifying our workforce with this program. And so with that, I'm going to turn it over to Rachel and Shayna, who were absolutely instrumental in this project and really did all the work with our community-based organizations as well as the young people. So Shayna and Rachel, I'd like to have you guys share for a few minutes.
Thanks, Ling. Chair and commissioners, we really first wanted to just give a thank you again. We've been saying thank you a lot, but Right Track Plus was really a project that we did not do as just the city and the county. We had 22 community-based organizations. You can see those folks on our screen. They really did the hard work with young people, identifying young people, helping them get into those internships, helping them, supporting them throughout the course of the internship, and then really working with them as those internships wrapped up to help those young folks figure out what was next for them. So in addition to those folks, we had 94 employers who really stepped up to the plate and said, yes, I want to host a young person. Like Ling mentioned, that included a lot of county and city departments. And so having those employers really be willing to provide some flexibility, provide learning opportunities to young people is just critical to the program. So we ended up with 212 interns who completed internships throughout sort of early summer, and some even extended into December, which was a great opportunity. We had 32 passport events, and so those passport events were really professional development opportunities that young people could participate in. Tours, speakers, learning about everything from veterinary medicine at the Raptor Center at the U of M to our public works department here at Ramsey County, to learning about careers in recording arts. There just was a huge variety of events for young people to participate in. And if we go to the next slide, you'll see some awesome photos that include some of those events. My favorite, if you look in the upper right-hand corner, the Twin Cities Trapeze School hosted an event. And so young people got to go and learn about circus arts careers, which didn't really know that that was even a thing, but it was a great opportunity for our young folks. We did a survey of all of the young people who completed internships and really got some incredible quotes and information back from young people. We pulled a few of them for the slide, but I have 5 pages of great quotes that we could share with you all from the interns. But really, interns, talked about gaining confidence, right? That 89% of the young people who completed the surveys felt that their confidence increased from before their internship to the end of their internship. A lot of young people talked about, the opportunity to get some experience in their dream job, or maybe what they thought was their dream job and they found out really is not a dream job, and really gave young people the tools to feel confident in work, develop better communication skills. 96% of our young people reported having identified goals for their future by the end of the program, and 95% of the young people reported believing that young people like them can make a difference in our community. And so really was an incredible opportunity for young folks in the community. I'll also mention that there is a Flickr gallery on the county's webpage that has a ton more pictures. And so if you want to go see some of those pictures, they're really fun to look at. And again, just thanks to all of our partners who hosted those passport events and who hosted interns. They're the ones who really made it work for our young folks. So we have some general kind of outcome data as we've been wrapping up the program. Overwhelmingly, the program served youth of color, with 56% of those young people identifying as Black or African American. Additionally, as the program came to an end, 74 young people indicated that they had a job lined up, and 98 young people indicated that they'd either be returning or staying in school. And just a reminder, these are young adults, 18 to 24, and so this is generally young people who are going to be in post-secondary. So again, we just wanted to mention that we have been doing a number of data collection and outcome measurements tied to the federal ARPA reporting requirements. Just wanted to say a thank you to Tara Bach and Christine Grill and the entire back office team. They have really been supporting that work. And you can find more information on the Ramsey County Open Data portal about the information about our participants, as well as some upcoming information that'll be uploaded there around outcomes, probably some more of the great things that young people said in the survey. So again, just really wanted to thank you all for your support of this project, and really excited to sort of use this as a launching point into future partnerships with the City of St. Paul.
Thanks, Rachel. And thanks, Shayna, for you guys did so much work with this project in a short amount of time with those over 200 young people. So thank you so much. So next, commissioners, what I'd like to do is kind of pivot to our new investments proposals. But before I do that, I want to make sure that I ground you in the fact that we've been doing a lot of community engagement, and we have been throughout the pandemic. As you recall, even with our CARES work and our CARES evaluation, we heard a lot from the community about what young people need and what community-based organizations are saying they need from the county at this time. I know many of you even joined in some of the sessions with young people. We had a few youth workshops and town halls. Most recently, in this past year, we've partnered with 3 organizations: Youth Prize, Culture Brokers, and a very dynamic new organization called Bridge Makers. They actually sprung up due to the unemployment efforts that high school students were drumming up in order to be able to attain unemployment insurance throughout the pandemic. And their motto is nothing about us without us. And we've really taken that on as a department as a way to ensure that young people are going to be continually at the table as we come up with programs and ideas and actually really have them co-design the work that we're doing. And so what we did here throughout the pandemic is that, you know, young people need living assistance. They're helping support their families. They need money. They need, you know, to be able to pay rent and buy food. And they are a critical part in many of their families' household income. They're also hungry for career preparation, transition support. They really do need support and mentorship. And certainly we heard very strongly that they need support in navigating systems and resources that the county or the community has. So right now I'm going to start sharing some of the basic framework and logic model for our proposed workforce investments. As you're very much aware, the disproportionate economic impacts of COVID-19 have hit our BIPOC communities the hardest. And you've heard me say that since we first, you know, basically very early in the pandemic. I would say maybe I was one of the first departments that spoke to you about that back in probably May of 2020. We continue to want to target our recovery efforts toward these groups. And as you'll recall from our economic competitiveness and inclusion plan, a very compelling quote from a community member who participated in the stakeholder engagements. The cost of inaction is too great. If we continue to chart a path toward recovery and create a more resilient future, then we must ensure our commitment to the most vulnerable residents. And so when our most vulnerable residents thrive, we all thrive. And so I propose to you that with these investments, we make another step toward making a more resilient future for Ramsey County. In addition, we have the opportunity to ensure that our recovery efforts and funding demonstrate an investment in human capital through what we are terming as learn and earn models. This allows us to invest in our residents while they are learning, recognizing they have financial demands that prevent them from pursuing training and education. We recognize that ensuring that everyone is paid for their training time is essential, and we as a community are making an investment in our shared economic growth and prosperity by doing so. And so the placement of Ramsey County Workforce Solutions within the Economic Growth and Community Investment Service Team is strategic in that people are a key part to ensuring that we are building the economic growth and prosperity of this community. And lastly, two more things. We are also going to be proposing a stronger and more aligned youth and young adult employment ecosystem. There are so many great partners, and yet we want to build a system that collaborates rather than competes for limited resources. We have met with many community-based organizations as well as school districts who are excited about the county leading to create a stronger connected network of youth employment supports. And lastly, we want to do some work around removing barriers to employment, most specifically driver's licenses for young people. So we'll be discussing that as well today. So first, I'd like to dive into the earn and learn philosophy and the model. This is a chart that or a graph that I had shown you probably back in May of 2020. We've updated a little bit more. COVID has been an opportunity for people who are data nerds and into labor market information to have a really strong voice, because it's been so important to understand what's happening in our labor market. And so this is a one slide depiction of the labor challenge before this community. This is a 10-year projection of our talent shortage in Ramsey County. The blue represents the jobs that we have too many people that are moving into or we will have, and the red represents the roles where we will be short. The ones that are blue represent those that need less education. They pay less and are at more risk toward automation as we think about the future of work. The red depicts occupations that are high growth, high demand. They will pay family sustaining wages and yet will require more education. So the challenge before us is how to pivot our younger workers who are on a trajectory for these blue jobs into an opportunity where they can be on a trajectory for these red jobs. And so the way we're going to frame this conversation is around promising pathways. I'm going to introduce to you three terms that I'm sure Commissioner McDonough is going to be familiar with, because we've been talking about this a lot at the Workforce Board. But there are origin occupations where these jobs are those lower wage jobs. They generally don't need 4-year degrees. They don't pay family sustaining wages oftentimes. Then there are gateway jobs. These can be very great opportunities in the sense that they pay more. They actually get people on a trajectory toward higher employment and can lead to those target jobs, and yet they require not quite a 4-year degree. And then ultimately, we want a lot of folks to be able to get to those target jobs. Our businesses need it, our economic growth requires it. And so those, we want to basically be able to help young people move through these promising pathways. So I'm giving you an example here of healthcare around a promising pathway, and how this is a little different than what a traditional career pathway model is oftentimes we think about a career pathway, it might be like one job to another job to another job. What we're trying to demonstrate is that there's actually groupings of occupations that people can move through. So for people who are starting in an origin job, they potentially could start in a whole pool of roles here, any of these, and they could have a selection of a multitude of roles above that and a multitude of roles above that as well. So hopefully this demonstrates that there is a lot of opportunity in Ramsey County to help people get to these target jobs, but we're going to have to phase in some steps, and people are going to have to do some career exploration and be able to get some short-term training in order to do that. So our first big investment that we're going to be asking for co-investment from the city and county is what I'm terming earn and learn base funding. This funding will allow us to support residents who are between the ages of 18 and 35 through a variety of what we're going to call doorways. Doorways start them from an origin job onto a trajectory of a target occupation. Earn and learn models were specifically identified as a key strategy in the Economic Competitiveness and Inclusion Plan. As you see in these doorways, they could involve a variety of different industries. It could be in public pathways, it could be in green, construction, it could be in tech, healthcare, manufacturing. These are examples of doorways, but what you'll see here is that we're always paying people to participate in the training models and their CBO wraparound support for the individual. So sometimes it's just a stipend training, sometimes it's a concurrent stipend training with an internship. I'm actually exploring a variety of public-private partnerships where we actually bring employers to the table to do innovative on-the-job training, where the county city would provide a wage subsidy while the person is a full-time trainee at an employer within Ramsey County. And so that is a base of funding that we want to have be somewhat flexible rather than too prescriptive, because we want to be able to respond to the needs of employers and also be able to meet the interests of job seekers. So this demonstrates that co-investment between the city and county. So what we're asking the city to co-invest here is 13.5 million and the county 3.7 million. And we would serve approximately between 250 to 350 program participants. I'm going to move on to our youth and young adult investments now. This is a very busy chart, but I wanted to just be able to demonstrate for you the workforce ecosystem for youth and young adults. Prior to the pandemic, we created a new strategy called Ramsey County Youth Works. This was done with an in-kind effort with the hope of letting networking blossom within our community. And during the pandemic, not only did it blossom, but it became absolutely critical for our community. And here I want to thank Mary Sue Hansen at the Suburban Ramsey Family Collaborative for truly her leadership in leveraging into our workforce Youth Works initiative in a way that no one could ever imagine. We had groups of community members meeting weekly throughout the pandemic, sharing resources with each other, and it continues today. Actually, they just had a meeting this morning and they continue to share ideas. The notes are shared out with a broad group of people so that everyone can be plugged into a more networked and aligned Ramsey County workforce ecosystem for young people. So the idea of Youth Works is an opportunity for the county to truly bring to its fullest potential through its set of strategic investments. This is a very busy depiction, as I mentioned, of many things happening in the youth employment area. In partnership with the City of St. Paul, the suburban cities, all the school districts and community-based organizations, we can bring all the work into county alignment with our ARPA dollars. What does this mean? It means that no matter what door a young person comes into for youth employment, they are connected to all the various services through a set of aligned and very intentional networks that the county supports. So essentially, if somebody comes in through a door, whether it's a career force center, a school district, a CBO, the right hand's talking to the left hand, and that there's this understanding of all the resources that are available. It doesn't have to be who do you know or who do you happen to have been on an email list. We have an opportunity now to align this ecosystem so resources are jointly shared across the system. So I'm going to take a short time to talk through each of these. I will say that we have talked to our school partners, our CBOs, and they are extremely excited about this. I have to say that we are charting a very ambitious set of work, but the need is great and the opportunity is even greater. We have the opportunity to co-invest funds here to bring a very deep set of work forward for your consideration that I will hope demonstrates what is a set of upstream investments in our young people will bring. One of my favorite lines from the Competitiveness and Inclusion Plan is, a place as rich in cultural vitality as it is as rich in economic opportunity. We have a chance to invest in that vitality today. And what we will bring back is an inclusive economy that doesn't leave anyone on the sidelines reaching their aspirations or dreams. So bear with us. I know it seems like this is going to be a big chart and we're going to talk through it, but we're going to go fairly quickly and then have time for questions. But we're going to talk through 7 areas of this ecosystem. We're going to talk about expanding Right Track and Right Track Plus. We're going to talk about creating a driver's license pilot. We're going to talk about the opportunity to bring youth and young adults to create an online hub for resources for themselves. We're going to be talking about bringing what's called the LEAP program, which is in Ramsey County, in Hennepin County, into Ramsey. We're going to be talking about adding what's called the county case coordination for youth who are county involved and need employment support. We're going to be talking about building a Youth Works affiliate program with our school districts and deepening our employer connections. So I know that's a lot, but we're going to get through it and you're going to have some great questions for us, I'm sure. So first, I'm going to turn it over to Erica to talk about our expansion with Right Track.
Thank you, Ling. I'm just, I saw that Commissioner Carter had her hand raised a second ago. No,
I'll pass. Thank you.
thank you. Thank you, commissioners. Well, oops, let me get my notes back here. Sorry. So my name is Erica Prosser. I'm the Deputy Director of Parks and Recreation for the City of St. Paul. The Right Track Youth Jobs Program is run out of our Parks Department. And I'm here to talk about Right Track and the Right Track Plus expansion. I really like how Lang talks about kind of realigning the ecosystem of youth jobs. When you have a transformational investment like this, I think it's important to pause and make sure that we are, being good stewards of our resources, and that we're investing in the right things. And so thinking about that ecosystem has been a really helpful way for us to frame our work. So starting with launching the new Center for Youth Employment and Training at the old Rice Teen Zone space. We're going to be moving our Right Track staff from City Hall Annex into their own space in the community. This is going to allow our staff to be more accessible to the youth. It's my understanding that Director Becker is exploring a similar model for suburban drop-in space. This converted space will allow us to provide a year-round headquarters for job readiness and career exploration training for our youth, as well as the ability to offer training and credentials for our employers and supervisors to ensure that they are welcoming and youth-friendly employers. The expanded funding is going to allow us to double the number of youth that we're serving through the Right Track program by doing two things. One, increasing the number of city and county funded internships, and two, aggressively recruiting more employer paid internships. Ensuring that these investments last beyond ARP funding requires that we engage employers in St. Paul and Ramsey County to financially support these internships when the ARP funding stops. Additionally, as part of Mayor Carter's Community First Public Safety Initiative, in alignment with the public health approach to violence reduction, we've had a targeted investment in recruiting justice-involved youth over the past 2 summers. This funding will allow us to expand that targeted recruitment to other opportunity youth, including homeless and highly mobile youth, pregnant and parenting youth, and other county-involved youth. There are 2 other programs that I think Ling is going to talk about a little bit further, but I just wanted to call out as part of our expansion. One, the driver's license pilot program. We had Right Track interns over the past summer work on a project with the city of St. Paul looking at identifying barriers to city employment. So requiring our driver's license was one of those barriers that youth identified. And when we shared this with Ling, she was hearing this from other employers as well. So she'll get into more of the details about the driver's license pilot, but we're really excited about that one. The other program is a partnership with St. Paul Public Schools, where we can provide recovery opportunities for high school youth. This past summer, right before our internships were supposed to start, we had a significant number of youth who had been ready to start their internships, but were waiting on summer school information from St. Paul Public Schools. And when we followed up with the schools, we learned that about 40% of SPPS students were credit deficient. This required kids to choose between summer internships and summer school. So when we approached the schools about the ability to have credit recovery with our internships, they were really excited. I know Ling is working on this with other schools in Ramsey County as well. But this provides a really good opportunity for us. And I think Ling is going to get into other opportunity youth investments.
Yeah, thanks, Erica. So, yeah, and just to preface that, we are working with our suburban partners to try to make sure that everything we do with Right Track, we're also kind of doing as part of a Right Track Plus expansion so that it's kind of mirrored throughout the county. And so while that can kind of seem a little bit confusing as we try to describe it, I wanted to make sure that everyone is really clear that we're not trying to create a bifurcated, where there's services available in the city that are that are different than in the suburban areas, but we have to build additional partnerships in some of those spaces in order to make that happen because it involves multiple school districts. But we brought them together regularly and they're all very interested in many of these same things and have expressed their desire and need for all of these same things. So for the suburban commissioners, I just wanted to make sure you knew that. So in terms of the driver's license pilot, I would say this is by far, as we've shopped our initiatives around to the community, by far the one that people get the most excited about. They're like, finally, someone is actually trying to do something innovative in this space. It is a very difficult thing for young people, particularly within the city of St. Paul, but certainly all young people to get driver's licenses. The cost of driver's ed is expensive. Having a supportive person and a vehicle to practice is very difficult as well. And so we are proposing kind of a 3-phase of support through a new driver's academy, basically through Ramsey County. Commissioner Reinhardt, you'll be glad to know that White Bear Lake School District has already been leading in this space and already doing some of this work. And so they're excited that we can build upon some of the knowledge that they've done. I know Elpis, a CBO in our community with homeless youth, has already been doing some of this work. So we've brought some people together who actually already are trying to find a solution. And their first comments to us were, thank you. We were so glad the county is willing to step in and take some of our learnings and build this out. And so really we want to focus on high school students, young adults, and people who are actually in a career pathway and have an opportunity for work, but need a driver's license or are unable to get one. Now, due to the regulations by the Department of Public Safety, these different age groups need different things. And so it's not going to be one size fits all, but we do believe we have the tools and the ability to create an academy that will allow a multitude of schools as well as CBOs and even just other residents who have this as a barrier to be able to access this academy and this pilot opportunity. So I'm happy to explain it further as you have questions, but just, think about it as for the younger folks who are still in high school, we would actually be doing this in partnership with schools, helping them with our car vouchers, potentially with supportive adults to be a mentor to help them through that. For older adults or young adults who are over 18, they actually don't need all those hours of behind the wheel, but the training and the cost is oftentimes a barrier to take the class or get practice. And then for the older folks, who maybe are slightly even older than 24, they have different sets of barriers that they just might need wraparound support to coordinate trying to get through the driver's licensing process. I don't know how many of you have tried to take a young person through that process, but it's not for the faint of heart. So even just that in itself will be something that the community is excited about. And we just know so many jobs require it, even though you don't need a card, you might need a license in order to operate a piece of machinery for work. And also by having a license, it might actually open the opportunity of suburban jobs that even if somebody doesn't have a car, we might be able to plug them into other programs. Like I know CapRW reached out to me that they have a car ownership program. So we just want to make sure we're building all these blocks and connecting them together so people actually can get these, we hear about these barriers a lot, but no one has really been sitting down and saying, let's hear from all the people and what are the resources they need in order to, overcome this barrier. So this is a big one for us. Commissioner McDonald, do you want me to keep going or take questions along the way? Should I just try to go through them all?
No, keep going,
Okay.
Ling. We'll take questions here as we wrap up.
All right, and then this is really exciting. In Chicago and Cook County, there is a youth young adult workforce development portal. This is the online version of kind of the in-person hub that Erica was talking about. And what this hub really is a gateway to all the resources that young people can have around employment in Chicago and Cook County. And what I love about it is that it is like a LinkedIn of lived experience. And so what it is you have all these videos of people in your community and the challenges and the obstacles and the barriers that they've overcome and the path that they took. So it really is like a LinkedIn. Instead of saying what credentials and what certifications, et cetera, what jobs they've held, it really gives insight on the different supports that they've navigated through in order to be successful. And so this is a great opportunity for us, but the best part about this opportunity is that not only would we get all the videos that are already been created throughout the country, but we actually want to make our own. And we want to have cohorts of young people in a track for tech and media to develop our own local leaders, business owners, BIPOC business leaders, BIPOC leaders, and others. And then also to create a social media cohort that actually would drive young people to the site. So this is really going to be a site that's created by them, for them, and using the best technology we can provide. And so I'm really excited about this. Not only would it house the videos, but it would house the whole plethora of resources that we have said we need to get into alignment in this community. So really excited to share more about it with you. I'd love to share the Cook County site with you if you want to explore it. Is amazing as well. And then I want to focus on specifically a couple of investments for opportunity youth. Opportunity youth are defined as those youth involved in our justice system, housing unstable, who are young parents, or who are youth in the foster care system. And all of these youth are really specific targets, right, for our community, our county, to try to ensure that they have the best economic opportunity that we can and that we remove barriers for them because they're already starting with significant barriers. So I want to have you think about young people in kind of this Venn diagram. There's all young people. Then there's kind of young people who are in this, what I call opportunity at risk young people. And that really would be kind of this group. So this is a particular group. And then we get even more deeper with those who are specifically county involved. And so we have a couple of projects that are going to focus on these the two darker gray subsets of this diagram. So the one that we want to focus in on for just opportunity youth in general is really something that we're building off of that's already happening in Hennepin County in the city of Minneapolis. It is called Learn and Earn to Achieve Potential. It is called the LEAP model. It is working in 10 local partnerships around the country right now. Currently, it is in Hennepin and Minneapolis. It's supported in evaluation by the Annie Casey Foundation. And it's a systems reform model, really aiming to align resources for impact. And the opportunity for us as a county is to move those investments and resources upstream. As I've told you, everything I'm talking about, it's hard for me to describe to you the excitement I have about it because I feel like this is all those meetings where we are talking about how to move resources upstream. I feel like we have now curated a menu of possibility here in this space. There is a tremendous opportunity for return on investment. I'm not saying that this stuff is inexpensive, but I believe in the opportunity for the return on investment as we invest here. Currently, we see that many systems actually serve youth are actually disconnected from each other. And we've heard this from our own organizations in the community. I've been convening a work group under the Continuum of Care for homeless organizations that serve youth. And we've been talking about employment specifically for the last year. And they have told me they all feel like they're doing things that are in duplication with each other. They are doing some things that they don't feel they have the expertise to do. They're looking for the county to help support and align. They want to cooperate, not compete. And so LEAP provides this while also giving us an opportunity to leverage what the American Rescue Plan Act dollars is really asking us to do, leverage into evidence-based models. And this has that Annie Casey Foundation work behind it. So what is LEAP? I would like to propose that we pilot LEAP in Ramsey County. And what LEAP is a very specific workforce curriculum called JAG. Project Pride in Living actually holds the license to use JAG in the state of Minnesota, and they're currently the ones using it in Hennepin and city of Minneapolis. LEAP would have the JAG curriculum. It has a very specific financial literacy curriculum, apprenticeships and internships that are aligned and focused on the opportunity youth. They have a specific focus on youth voice and youth power. I would say that's actually one of their strongest assets that we are lacking currently in Ramsey County, is that coordination of allowing youth to design and co-create and be on advisories and kind of all in all our different organizations of the community. And it also provides professional development and networking for these staff. And so you can imagine that we have multiple community-based organizations or schools serving these particular youth, and they could align by using some standardized supports and supporting each other as well while being supported by the county. And so what we're going to propose is a set of opportunities for schools or CBOs who have high COVID impact or serving opportunity youth to be a pilot site for LEAP in Ramsey County. Currently, there are 2 sites already in Ramsey County. Change Inc. and High School for Recording Arts has just came on board. And we think that there is a lot of potential here. And this is a pilot worth investing in. And then I'll go on to like this other, the darker County Plus group. So I've talked about the general opportunity youth group. Now I want to talk more specifically to young people who are actually opportunity youth, but also involved in a county system in some way. And we're defining those as 14 to 21 and being served by a county department, whether it's probation, foster care, child welfare, children's mental health, on our MFIP program, or coming through coordinating entry for housing. And what we're proposing is that we would pilot a opportunity, what we're calling case coordination, which means that these young people would actually get an additional support around employment supports and continuing with school from this investment. And so this is not what probation officers do. This is not what children's mental health people do. So that we would build a new partnership where we would come alongside those other supportive groups to ensure that there is more supports around helping them be successful with school and employment. This has already been happening in Hennepin County as well. I just wanted to make sure that that was made known. But we believe there's an opportunity to pilot this as well with these dollars. Rachel, do you have anything to add here? I know you're more of the expert on the PLUS program than I am.
No, just I think we have heard from our other youth serving partners across the county that they are not employment experts and they're not experts in how to navigate post-secondary or even getting young people to graduation all the time. And so really being able to bring in some specific supports and bring in people who can really curate sort of the network there to support those specific populations, I think will really be beneficial. And like Ling said, will ultimately hopefully do a big return on investment, because we know these are young people who could continue to be in our systems for a long time if we don't do some interventions early.
All right, we're almost to the end, so bear with us. We've got a couple more. So really the alignment, this is something our schools are excited about. We want to create an affiliate network. The way we're defining this is that we want to ensure that all schools are plugged into that whole ecosystem of the work that we're getting in. So I hope you're hearing the theme that maybe a better, diagram would have been a bunch of doors, and you guys saw like all the ways young people can enter, right? Like whether it's through the county, whether they're an opportunity youth that meets up with the CBO because they somehow, found themselves over at a face-to-face organization or an LPS. But this is also, we want to make sure kids who are in school are also able to access all our resources, because this has been a particularly disruptive time for kids who are in school. Our typical WIOA resources that we get that fund our county work around young people do not allow us to serve in-school youth very much. And we are recognizing that with COVID, there has been a tremendous disruption for young people who are, even though they are in school, they are struggling. And schools are telling us the same thing. And so to be a Ramsey County Youth Works school affiliate would allow you to have systems alignment with all our different partners. We would be leveraging all our resources and best practices, ensuring that those young people in career pathways at those schools can plug into our Right Track program. We want to actually create some coordination between shared industry events. We heard from the career pathways representatives from all the suburban school districts that they would really love some support around a career exposure. They just can't do all of it by themselves. And there's no point that one school district should do that by themselves. These are solutions that we can work on as a community. And then lastly, we want to propose a small just pilot really around a work barrier support fund. We heard this from schools. Young people a lot of times are ready to get a job, but they just don't have some of the last things that they need in order to be able to do it, whether it's that first gas card or bus card in order to, until they get that first paycheck. Maybe it's the set of work boots, maybe it's the tools that they need for something. You know, these are just small barriers, and we think we can create a small fund to really help some young people get through a quick barrier if possible. We've been hearing feedback from schools on that as well. So Rachel, I don't know if you have more to add on that fund. You know, that's something you've been researching. Okay. All right. And then lastly, we want to make sure we're leading with employers as having some responsibility in joining us. As a part of my biennial budget, I put in a new project called the Inclusive Workforce Champions. Some of you are very familiar with the biz recycling model. I'm trying to kind of do that with our chambers, where we basically have workforce champions within our chambers. And we're going to lean into that and build upon that. But we want, Erica and City of St. Paul and Ramsey County have been talking about how do we create a youth inclusive employer network where these are employers that say, I am going to support a more inclusive employment ecosystem in Ramsey County. We are willing to send our staff to trainings. We are willing to commit to Right Track and Right Track Plus hires and have them co-develop really a work readiness credential that they're willing to help us create and also value. And so we think that this is something that's very doable in our community. And I think employers are going to be excited about it. And it really calls them to the table as to, you know, people have said they want to make a difference in being a part of the racial equity work that's happening, that's needed in this community in order to grow our economy. Ramsey County is continuing to be diverse. We are a young community when it comes to diversity. This is work that has to be done if we're going to grow our economy. And so I think employers are going to be ready to do this. And the really exciting thing is a youth and employers co-advisory. I really love the idea of young people sitting across the table from employers and actually sharing with them when they've experienced discrimination, when they've experienced racism in the workplace, what communication things are not working, because we need to have a table where these things are being addressed and that we can have strategies to work along with them. So I know that was a ton. We will take questions, but this is a quick summary of all those youth aligned investments and how it adds up, you know, with the city county investments. We anticipate serving, you know, close to 900 or 1,000 program participants with all of these investments in partnership with our cities and school districts. Next steps would be, you know, you will have made what would be a total of a $9.5 million investment, recognizing you've already made a 1.85 million investment. So an upcoming RBA would be for the remainder. And I'm recommending that the city co-invest with us at a rate of 16.3 million, hopefully with a city council approval very much aligned with the timing of your county board approval, so we can get started for the summer. So with that, Mr. Chair, I know that was a lot of information. Thank you. I'll go back to whatever slide anyone wants us to.
Lang, you and your team have done a really nice job of packing a lot of information here. We'll open it up to questions, but before we do, I just wanted to make a couple observations and comments. I've been involved in workforce the whole time I've been a commissioner, since 2000, and even before that with youth and working and mentoring with youth. And so many times it's been discouraging over the years in our approaches. I can remember the old CYET program, where we basically gave kids trash bags and put them out on street corners. We gave them bottles of Windex and a roll of paper towels and had them cleaning windows at our rec centers. And the next day they'd show up and they'd get a bottle of Windex and a paper towel. And the next day they show up and they get a bottle of Windex and a paper towel. And it was discouraging, and we didn't actually reach out and listen to kids. We didn't talk to folks in the community. We didn't leverage partnerships. We absolutely didn't leverage the business community. It was always government or, you know, maybe some community-based organizations. And this has really taken this up a lot, way, this journey here on how we invest in youth and prepare for the future, focusing in on careers, gateway careers, targeted careers, and recognizing that it's more than just getting a kid a job, right? It's preparing them for their future. And what you've laid out here is tremendous. And I want to take a moment, Erica, you're here from the city, and folks, there's been times over the past 20 years where the city has chosen to go it alone on some of this investment, and you know, to have this kind of partnership where the city's bringing their ARPA money in is just absolutely amazing. It tells a story of its own about the trust that Ling and her team have been able to develop with the city of St. Paul and our school districts and cities in the suburban community. They've seen a lot of work here, working with the suburban collaborative. So, you know, Ling, you packed a lot in there, but just in this brief time, I tried to pack a lot in there because the story and journey on how we've invested in youth, and our outcomes have been exactly what you would expect on how and approaches when we did not engage youth and listen to them, when we did not engage community. Over 90 community-based organizations participated in some of the CARES funded stuff. Amazing work. Back in 2000, I can tell you there was maybe 2 community-based organizations, and again, mostly government, city of St. Paul for the most part, in the Parks and Rec stuff. So, Ling, thank you. Erica, thank you for the work that you've been doing in the city, and the both of you bringing this work together to really lay out not only an investment opportunity here for us and our youth, but really a path for youth to be able to participate in you know, the economic opportunity in our community. So with that, I'll turn it over to questions. I'm looking here, I don't see hands up. Oh, there they go. Look at them all. I got Commissioner Carter, then McGuire, then Mattis Castile, and Reinhardt. So Commissioner Carter, go ahead, kick us off.
You know what? I don't think this is a time for a lot of questions. You know, I say that knowing hands are raised, but it is a time for applause. And I really do appreciate that you all have come forward working together collaboratively to represent incredible work. This has taken time to develop and unfold. And we've all heard pieces of the imaginings that are coming to life right before our very eyes at this time. I know we all have great hopes that the investments that we are putting together at this point in time, and I'll look very forward to this coming forth to us as an RBA. I know the city is also looking very forward to seeing this coming forth, to our being in partnership in this big way with this big vision for young people, connecting, as Commissioner McDonough has already said, our partners in government and community and young people and their voices and vision. This is big. You know, the piece that I think is also very important is the work that you're doing with the school districts. And of course, you haven't talked about the knitting together of all of that work, but we know and can trust that the manner in which you've done this work in creating this big vision and making it real together is the same manner in which you'll be connecting to those schools. And all of those schools have partners and work with partners. So this is additional opportunity for weaving partners into this and for assessing whose work is at what level, with whom, when, and where. And what a great opportunity you're creating for those bigger discussions to continue. I'm particularly intrigued by the LEAP work that you've described also coming into our county. And that does sound like a great opportunity for young people to be supported in their multiple needs as they look forward to the careers that they desire for their lives. This is making our vision of a vibrant county where all are valued and thrive come more into focus. So again, I don't have a question, forgive me, but I just have to give huge applause to the huge work that is done. And I know how sometimes it may not have seemed as though it was actually possible, but you've kept at it, at the table together, advocating together, building together. And we look forward to seeing that continuing collaborative work continue to benefit all of our youth. And of course, in a family-centered way as we do this work to figure out what that means for youth and families and our entire community. Much appreciation, and thank you, Commissioner McDonough.
Thanks, Tony. Well said. Commissioner McGuire.
And I will just add my thanks, although Tony, I do have a couple of questions, but really, you're right. This is a time for celebration. And Ling, I always look forward to workshops with you because you just get me so inspired, and all the work that you're doing, I'm just amazed. I get tired just thinking about all the work that you're doing, and I'm so impressed. And you know, the fact that you're working with so many amazing partners, because as you know, we're all out in the community, and I'm at the Roseville Business Council, and I'm at the Suburban Ramsey Family Collaborative, and all of our school districts and cities in the suburban area are asking for this. And so I'm just so grateful that you're working with all of them. And I just have to say, I'm just super excited about all of this. And I will say that in my own background, I mean, I've benefited from programs, whether or not, we were totally in need or not, but we had 6 kids, and I grew up when we had free summer school for anyone. It was enrichment summer school. I mean, I wish we could do that for kids right now, but now it's just all about remedial, and I just benefited by that. And then when I was in college, I did this thing called Urban Corps, and I worked with St. Paul Parks on doing, day camp counseling. I loved it. That's where I met Bruce Thompson, who many of you know. That's how we met, was at a great summer program that, the federal government helped put together, and we worked with St. Paul Park. So I'm thinking some of this, some of those traces are still there, but these were great opportunities for all of us to get great experience in the community. So I am really excited about this. I'm so glad that you're learning from Hennepin County and Cook County. And I mean, it's great that we're learning all of that. I just have I will have questions along the way, and I totally support everything you're doing. Just curious, like the one question on the LEAP program. So is that where we bring that in and do it ourselves, or do we hire them to do it? Do we hire this organization to do it? And so I think on a number of things that I'm not as familiar with, I was just curious about that. Whatever it is, I trust your judgment on it, but I was curious whether that's something that we just do or whether we bring in others.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, and Commissioner McGuire, that's a good question. I like to describe LEAP as almost, for folks, that it is a very complicated model, but a good analogy would be like a franchise. In many ways, it is a model that's already put together, and a school or a community-based organization can subscribe to it, but they might need resources in order to implement it. So there's a little bit of a franchise fee in order to get the resources, for example, the certain curriculum or like the professional, kind of to be like a member into the LEAP network. But then the school or CBO itself would need probably some resources in order to be able to support the teaching and the implementation of LEAP, if that makes sense. So, yeah. So what we would probably do, and again, we need to frame this out, but we'd probably release an RFP where organizations or schools could apply to be a pilot LEAP site, if that makes sense. And they would have to then compete in order to demonstrate their need and ability to sort of invest, kind of to co-invest in some ways into the model with us. Does that make sense? We don't really want to have to completely fund it 100%. I mean, we need to see a certain level of commitment, because in 3 years, my goal is that it's working, that some of those sites would then take it on, if that makes sense. We'll see the results. And that's what's kind of happened a little bit in Hennepin, if that makes sense. So a franchise model, I hope that maybe makes it a little more clear, of how that would work. Yes, that does really, it helps. I understand it's complicated and things, but it's
that's a helpful analogy. And just to let you know, I also want to say I appreciate St. Paul coming to the table with this partnership. And I know that in the suburban area, I want to help you find as many partners as we can. I mean, I know they're ready, as you have said, that we all want to make this work in the entire county. And so whatever any of us can do to help with that, I just want to be here to do that. So thank you. Thank you. And all of you on this call, thanks everyone for your work. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thanks, Mary Jo. Commissioner Mattis Castile, then Commissioner Reinhardt.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair, and thanks, Ling. I'm of the time to praise and less questions, but the thing that strikes me here, and Commissioner McDonough, I really appreciate that history, because I think that's really important. You know, I've been doing rounds with community leaders and hearing from community like we all have, and there's been this sense of like, we just need things for kids to do. And that's just, and I get that sense and that urgency of we need things, but we don't need to, kids have a lot to do. And there is a lot of things competing for their attention, for their priority, and easily distracting from, you know, building for a future when you can be satisfied in the here and now of a quick fix or getting some quick cash or a quick thrill. And that's what we don't want to do, right? And so this program and how you've laid out to me is really exciting, because it takes a longer term approach to helping kids navigate, and young people, and sorry, not to say kids and disparity, because these are young adults that are really working towards a future. And I think that's incredibly important, is that we're not trying to have knee-jerk reactions to compete. I mean, you know, giving someone a bottle of Windex and some paper towels is not going to compete with the other things going on in their lives, in our changing system. But to truly say there is a future in whether it's building up for tech or healthcare careers and long term. So I just really want us to like understand that this goes a long way. I wish that all of the community members were watching this presentation today, and I know we're going to have an RBA, but this is the thing that community is asking for, even if they don't realize this is what they've been asking for. So it's more than just giving young people something to do, it's giving them something to do that is going to produce fruit for them and truly can compete against those other priorities in a way that's helpful and leads to growth and gives back to our society. So I just wanted to praise that. Thank you very much for your work on that.
Yeah. Victoria, if you don't mind, I wanted to just expound, because Trista, I really appreciate you going down that path. You know, Ling talked about, you know, our county involved youth, the circles there, right? The county involved youth, the kids, just something to do or a space to go and something to keep them busy. I don't care how much trauma a youth has been involved in, what's going on in their lives, where their barriers are. They are amazingly smart and perceptive. And if they sense this is all you're willing to do to invest in my future, they will have nothing to do with you. It just doesn't work. And we gotta quit looking back to that, thinking that's our only responsibility, is to provide them with something to do. So thanks for highlighting that. Commissioner Reinhardt, thanks for let me jump in there before I called on you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I want to do a little bit of history here as well, because Workforce Solutions under Ling's leadership has been absolutely amazing in thinking outside the box. I think Ling, thinking outside the box is second nature to you. And we try to catch up sometimes as you're moving fast. But way back when she was with the Venice Heights Economic Development Corporation, she came up with the plan. And in fact, the corporation, Venice Heights, put money into the pilot program that has now become a statewide program. And that was for a manufacturing section in the high schools. And of course, it's expanded from there. And so when she moved into or got into the new role, it was easy to be able to expand that because of its, well, how successful it was. And again, that was just one area. And so, and it doesn't surprise me, by the way, that the White Bear Lake Area School District was the first to sign on for the new one as well, because that's where a lot of this started. So I think for the suburban school districts, there are opportunities, and quite frankly, Workforce Solutions in partnership with the City of St. Paul, because of the funding and how all of this works, they're ready, willing, and able to move forward with the school districts to get these different ideas and programs and see what works in your community. And I think that's the exciting part for me. And so I wanted to give a little bit of history, how Ling, and I know it's your entire team, and I'm not trying to say anything other than that, but I think it has been your creativity from before you were even with Ramsey County. You were working to make things happen. And I remember sitting down and saying, okay, what can we do? What can Ramsey County do? And it was not a simple thing, but it was all about payroll and workers' comp to get it done. And we have grown from there, obviously. So yes, I don't have questions either, but I wanted to let folks know really just how far we have come, and the excitement when you go to one of those graduations, or I don't know if it's graduation, but the party where they talk about their experiences, there's nothing more inspiring than that. And looking at the options that they have. So I just wanted to give kudos to Ling, to the staff, and this opportunity. I mean, ARPA has given us a number of opportunities to move things forward, take it to the next step. And I'm glad that we have a plan in place to make that even better. And the partnerships, working with the City of St. Paul is very, very important in leveraging what we can do as a county. So thank you.
Mr. Chair, could I say a couple things in response to the youth involvement? I do want to just stress that, you know, it's ongoing, our engagement with the young people, and that's going to be something that St. Paul's really committed to in partnership with the city. We just received the city just received a National League of Cities tech grant, which actually has us forming a tech advisory group with young people. So there's all kinds of work happening all over the place. But I think within Ramsey County, with the Workforce Solutions is fortunate enough to be one of the systems members of TST, and that youth advisory group is also something that we're very engaged in. And actually, I'm meeting with them here on February 7th to talk more about our work and how they can be involved as well. So I do want to thank you all, because really, you know, I know somebody mentioned Elizabeth Holzman earlier in the board meeting about the strategic priorities, but it's the priorities that guide our work, and knowing the priorities and where this board sits, and then your willingness to want to push in doing work that maybe hasn't been done before. It gives us as staff a real freedom to really embrace that and do new things. And so I don't want to take that, you know, that creativity only on myself. It comes from all of you, really, because not all people get to work in a job where there is that ability. And I want to thank the county manager and deputy county manager too for that trust and that work we've been able to do with the city. Co-investing these types of dollars is not easy. I don't even think it's happening anywhere in the country. I've gotten several calls from national organizations wondering how the heck we're even doing it. It's been unfortunate that there hasn't been more of co-investing between layers of government, actually. So I went on the hard days, as I call Joanna about all this, I feel like, you know, I'm motivated though, because I know we're doing something that is better government. And so I really want to thank you all for the opportunity to lead work like this.
Thanks, Ling. Commissioner Carter.
Thanks. I appreciate the opportunity to just chime back in. I am excited too, and I am thankful that we are on a track that is about making certain youth are moving forward. And you've illustrated by sharing with us the promising pathways in the healthcare example there are origin jobs, there are gateway occupations and target occupations. And in that pathway, we see what similarly replicates itself, whether we're talking about building management jobs or construction or manufacturing and whatever field IT we're talking about. What doesn't show up necessarily in this example is that there are young people who don't yet have that dream, who aren't connecting to the pathway, at its intermediate location, if that's the origin occupation. What I believe I see in what you've described is that wherever that young person is, even if they haven't quite gotten on that ladder yet, in that origin job, if they're sweeping floors, if they are picking up trash, that we've got something for them, that we are going to target them for engagement in a doorway or a pathway, and that we are actively seeking them, so that wherever they are, we will plan that manner in which they can come into engagement with a drive toward a pathway. I'm making that assumption, although every job may not be listed here. I am making the assumption that we will not take our eyes off young people who may not yet have their dream, but for whom we are dreaming and will engage in moving forward. So thank you. That's the assumption I'm making. I can ask a lot of questions, but I won't, because there will be time for that later as well as you build. Thank you.
Thanks, Tony. Ling, I think you already gave pretty much your closing comments, but I wanted to circle back to you, then Joanna, and then Ryan, you get last comments here.
Just thank
You're good?
you. Yep.
All right, Joanna, any comments for you closing this out? And then I'll turn it over to Ryan.
Extremely proud of this team, Mr. Chair, and my thanks to all of them. This is amazing work.
Good, thank you, Joanna. Ryan, you're on. Well,
Thanks,
Mary Jo, hold on, Ryan. I see Mary Jo waving here.
I just want to say one more thing, Mr. Chair. It'll be short, but I just want to thank you, Ling, for your work and your partnership. And I know that these organizations are reaching out to you because you are doing this amazing work. And, we're all a part of AMC and NACO, and we all learn from each other. And so I just really appreciate that you're sharing this with our associations, because I know that they want to learn from us as well. And I just want to thank you for that, and whatever I can do to help support that sharing of information, because I know you're so busy that it just takes time to do that. But just thank you for that. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thanks, Mary Jo. There you go. All right, Ryan. Close us out.
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Chair. Two things. I really appreciate Ling's comment about how you set a strategy and then you put people together to enact against that strategy. That is absolutely a part of what we're trying to do across all of these ARPA programs. And this is the first of those comebacks. But it's hard for organizations to align around this work. And we should feel proud of the way you're seeing that alignment. It takes trust in leaders. It takes having good leaders and good staff. Rachel, thanks for being a part of this today. And Erica, thank you for being here from the city. Shana, you as well. My last comment that didn't come up in the presentation directly, but is important, and it goes to a little bit of the earlier conversation, is that as you look across violence prevention and you look at the work happening here, this is one of our intentional strategies to crosscut. And I just want to say that out loud. I mean, there are different ways to address building a healthier and more connected community. And part of our bet is that it's engaging with young people, particularly during a pandemic when ties are strained. More than that, Ling has been a part of a broad group that's been meeting every other Friday in the county, now being led by two deputy county managers, Scott Williams and Kathy Hadeen, called the Actions and Support Services Team, talking about when we are directly working with youth who we are concerned about a lack of opportunity and connection, what are the resources we can bring to bear across our entire county system to address those needs immediately? And it's very concrete work with a very direct connection into young people in the moment. And it did not show up in today's presentation because it's not an ARPA investment, but it's another spot where your workforce solutions director is leading. And Joanna is there from EGCI as well at that table. And we have other service teams And I don't want to leave a conversation like this without tying it back to that broader work around building a healthier and more connected community. Thank you, sir.
Thanks, Ryan. Last words here. I think today we've all seen a county of excellence at work here. So thank you, Ling, and your team, and the city of St. Paul, Erica and your team, and Ryan. I think you tying it together there, that this is much broader, but again, demonstrating how this is working in the county, from mission, vision, goals to strategies and implementation, and really appreciate that. With that, we're adjourned. Have a great afternoon. See everybody later. Take care.
Great meeting, Mr. Chair. Great job. Lynn.
Yeah.